Does Tilta Hydra Alien Mini biking kit make sense? This set is sold for 169 bucks, but lately Tilta has some kind of the promo and the price is around 144. I got mine as separate pieces because I own the Hydra Alien Mini Ultimate Kit, so I just bought absorption head for the Pocket 3 and the bike mount. The head does not seem to work well on the car, even though the Tilta advert shows it is working great. You can check my video on the topic here. Definitely the setup with the Insta360 damper works better on the car. What about the absorption head on the bike? I've tested a few different configs on different surfaces on my scooter and my bike. Both my Pocket 3 and Acttion 5 Pro flew away during the tests, so you already owe me a like for the dedication. I recorded 3 hours of Pocket 3 footage and of course I would present the worst cases. I actually ride both my bike and a scooter quite aggressively. Sure, I'm not a Josh Bender-like, but still sometimes riding 30 km per hour downhill on a rooty trail, which generates tremendous forces on the handlebar. I'm not even trying Pocket 3 in such a scenario because I think it will just break, but I tested it on tarmac, paved bike lines, dirt roads and on a quite bumpy downhill. Nothing hardcore, I'd say it is 30 to 40% hardcoreness of what I usually ride, but I still managed to nick both cameras in the process. I attached the arm to the bike mount directly. That means I haven't used the additional rod, at least at the beginning, and I started big riding down a 10-meter hill on the quite bumpy dirt road with my Swifty Scooter, which does not have any suspension. Tested the absorption head first, both with Pocket 3 upright as Tilta recommends and upside down. Tension knob around 15 to 16 turns and with the included counterweight, which is also recommended by Tilta in their videos. And as far as I avoided any bigger potholes, it was quite okay. But when I went through some, the footage was just terrible. But it is just a push scooter, not an electric one. So on the flat it goes like 10 km per hour tops, and even on the way to the hill, the bigger potholes made the footage jumpy. Although it was kinda okay on smaller bumps on the dirt road. When mounted upside down, it seems a bit better on flat, but downhill part was terrible on every bigger bump in both configurations. Not usable in my opinion. I've tested also the config with Insta360 damper for comparison, and this is when my Pocket 3 flew away, detaching from the extension with the threaded mount. It was fully my fault, not the Tilta's rig. I do not recommend attaching the Pocket 3 to the bike with this extension. Unfortunately, I pushed the zoom by mistake when the camera was mounted upright on the damper, but still this is unusable, especially since the camera can detach from the rig. It was very shaky even on the flat, not to mention the downhill part. I've also done a quick test without any damper, and of course it was just terrible, jello-like all the time. Also during all these tests, 2 screws unscrewed in the rig. First the mount screw attaching the Insta damper, then this screw attaching the arm to the bike mount. This wasn't very convincing that you can trust this rig on the bike or a scooter. But all this happened on the scooter without any suspension. So I attached the rig to my bike then, which has a Fox Float RL fork. Top of the line air fork around 10 years ago. Straight away I tested the bike on the hill, both configs with Tilta absorption head, so upright and upside down. It was better than on the scooter due to the bike suspension, but still not good enough on bumpy dirt road. I actually lost my Acttion 5 Pro during the test. I do not recommend attaching anything to the bike without screwing it in. When the camera was mounted upside down, it was better, but still on every bigger bump the footage was really jumpy. It looked like the focus group moved inside the camera head. So definitely the arm and the absorption head weren't good enough to mitigate the bumpiness of the road, and it was just a normal dirt road, not a rooty forest trail. Then I tested less hardcore scenarios, so freshly flattened dirt road. Actually, they were flattening the dirt roads around. I was just cruising on the bike 15 to 25 kilometers per hour. You can see how the buildings around are jumping in the frame, or lampposts, or any stationary objects. For me, unacceptable. It looks kinda like the sensor is moving out of the focus plane for a split second. So then I continued to cruise on the tarmac. This was okay unless I crossed the curb or rode on the manhole. Then the small jello was introduced. And it seems there were less shakes when the camera was mounted upright. The arm itself does not move while riding on tarmac. All the work is done by the head, and it looks quite smooth even at 25p. But on the paved sidewalk it was kinda bad, since every time there were bigger bumps the arm jumped and it created the jump in the footage. The jumps are not big, but check the advert on the right. How it is going out of the focus plane due to the camera vibration on the bumps or due to me pedaling. I also tested 60 frames per second, and this footage was acceptable on tarmac and paved sidewalk. I was doing 25 kilometers per hour tops, but when I returned to the dirt road it was terrible again. So I thought that maybe 15.5 turns of the tension knob might be a wrong setting. So I tested 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 and 17. Went through the paved bike line back and forth for 15 minutes with the camera mounted upside down in the head. And it was not good at any of these settings. As expected, the lower the tension, the worse the footage was. Then I attached the additional arm as Tilta advises in their instructional video on YouTube, and again tested all these tension settings from 11 to 17. And I'm actually surprised, because at 16 and 17 turns of the tension the footage is acceptable. With lower tension settings it started to be jelly-like again. And since the setup with this additional rod and the highest tension of the Alien arm was successful on tarmac and paved sidewalk, I gave it a last try on the dirt road and the downhill part. Unfortunately, the downhill part was flattened also, so the bigger potholes were eliminated. But there were still a few, and each time I rode through them, jello was introduced. And during the downhill part, the camera lost focus totally due to the speed and small bumps. So I called it a day, and I know I am sending the absorption head back. In my opinion, Packet 3 does not make sense on a bike or a scooter. It makes sense on the car, but with Insta360 damper mounted upside down. I haven't found any configuration that works on the bike except for the tarmac and sidewalk riding, which I almost never do. I'm sending the head back, but I'm leaving the bike mount because I think it would work great with Acttion 5 Pro, which is made for such situations. Although I tested Acttion 5 Pro before on the downhill part, and it was not ideal when mounted directly to the handlebar. I know Tilta also has an absorption head dedicated for the action cameras, but I will test first my Acttion 5 just with the arm and the Rocksteady Plus. I hope this will be enough to get the stable footage. I will also take it to the more hardcore tracks to see if Acttion 5 Pro with the arm can cope. But the Hydra Alien Mini biking kit is a waste of money in my opinion. The arm works great on the car if you set it right, but on the bike it doesn't. I'm not sure how Tilta recorded their promo footage. They either stabilized it in post or it was recorded using something else. There is also a small probability I'm dumb and I'm missing something, but I guess it is less than 10%. All the test footage was recorded in D-Log-M -07 EV, no ND filters, auto exposure and auto white balance. I might release a separate video with just Pocket 3 footage, so stay tuned. I hope I saved you some frustration and $170, so see you later, alligator.